nerd. I love being a nerd. I had a bag full of skills. You can literally create your own lane. I know I did.
Oh, so good.
This is water. This is water. Let's be clear, okay? I'm just putting it in a glass to look all kinds of gisty, you know?
What's in that toolbox? You know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going with this. Oh my God, I need a refill. Speaking truth is very expensive.
We're no longer in a place of just surviving. We're actually thriving at this point.
Let's talk about opportunity and respecting opportunity.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the Daily Stand-Up. I am Erin. Y'all know me from In the Cash. I'm also the only girl in the room, but today I am not. The reason why we are doing this series is I think it's critical. Like, I witness on a regular day basis some women who are phenomenal. Okay, I'm saying it again, phenomenal. I really just want the rest of the world to be exposed to them, because what I notice is they love to interview somebody from a C-suite, but they never talk about the folks who are doing the work, doing the real work. Listen, this is going to be a wisdom-based conversation. Let me introduce for y'all today. I have Muthoni Richards with us. Muthoni, thank you so much for joining us. Just give us a welcome really quickly.
Thank you. I'm excited. I am super excited. First of all, it's you, Erin. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. When people bring you into rooms, you better recognize. So I want to take a moment and give you your flowers, Erin, because you are doing this. I've even seen the other things that you've done before with setting up the women's sisterhood groups. And they're still around. So I'm excited because I know that this is not going to be just something that happens over a couple of days, couple of weeks, and, people move on to other things. But I know this is going to be long-term. So let's light this fire.
Come on now. Tony, do us a quick favor. Tell us what it is that you do.
I make governance, risk, and compliance palatable in general. A lot of teams, a lot of people have really bad experiences when they step into the GRC space. And my passion is in making sure that not only are we within whatever requirements are for governance, risk, and compliance, but that people have a good experience. I am a regulatory risk management professional. I currently sit in the privacy space. That is by necessity, because privacy is a really difficult and challenging spot right now. It's a hot potato, depending on where you are, where you sit in the organization, and where you sit in the world. I am passionate about privacy for even personal reasons, because as a woman, privacy can be the thing that literally saves your life. I know that in a lot of instances, the way privacy has been applied, it has not included sensitivities that capture what women need. And it doesn't matter where that woman is globally. So for me, it's not just about governance, risk, compliance, and privacy and getting the bag. It's literally about people.
Sorry, I'm going to write that down. I got to come back to this recording. I'm about to write it down right now. That right there, Muthoni. I think as privacy professionals, we genuinely do not discuss enough or have those difficult conversations around how privacy is actually a survival thing that's in your toolkit, basically, for all women, right? But before we get into that, because we already headed in a direction, I want to talk to you about, so a lot of people that watch this channel are wanting to get into tech or just wanting to understand what the space is like, look for a little bit of education, how to kind of thing. And so if you could just share, give us the 2-minute, 5-minute version of how you arrived to doing what you do today.
Golly, 5 minutes. Okay. So number one, I am a nerd. I love being a nerd. And for me, a nerd is somebody who is very much about information and how you operationalize that information, right? So I am by background a political scientist. International policy management is my super sweet spot. I can listen to what's going on globally and sort of help you understand where you want to be regulatorily, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the ins and outs of some of these things that actually happen at a global scale. So how did I get into tech? Well, I've never really been outside of tech. And if we think about it, none of us really are. I mean, our lives right now is everything is tech. And so what happened is a need actually came into light within tech itself. And that need was having people like myself who understand the tech language, understand international policy management, and just basically understand human beings to that level where you can sit in the room, listen to what's going on, and paraphrase for each part of the room what they need to do. So I developed the various languages. I worked with, in some cases, I'll just sit around with engineers, whether they're software engineers or architectural engineers, listen to their conversation, understand that, and bringing my understanding and knowledge and education of international policy management. So the opportunity presented itself because I had a bag full of skills. There's a lady I used to meet with, and she would say to me, Muthoni, you have a bag of tricks. I want to use that bag of tricks. So I say all that to say this whole thing of you got to have a computer science degree, we know that is not true. I've been in rooms with people who have computer science degrees, and they're not any better than I am at risk management identification. They're not. It is the way that your critical thinking, I'll say this for anybody who wants to get into the field, your critical thinking is what makes the difference.
Yeah.
If you can listen to somebody explain why they're doing something with the system and open up whatever that space is and ask the right questions, understand how to push back when things don't seem to make sense, you can literally create your own lane. I know I did.
Come on now. So, Muthoni, I had a set of questions, but I want to take it. You said a couple of things that were so good. Okay, so Muthoni, you said something earlier that I want to unpack because I realize not everyone thinks like us, right? We're engineers, like we like to just pull things apart. Can you talk about, listen, first of all, most of us are here because of the bag. I want to be very clear. I like my bag. I know you like your bag too, but in terms of making your own lane and making this work for you and not having to follow the path that someone else did traditionally, right? Those who like maybe don't have a college degree, talk about the bag of skills because we don't talk about that enough.
Let me tell you right now, if I was hiring right now, I would not care that you are a brilliant computer scientist, whatever that is these days, or that you're a fantastic information security specialist or whatever. No, I'm okay with you being average on that. But one of the skills that is lacking right now in the workplace, regardless of the age bracket that we look in, one of the skills that really needs to be grown is maturity, personal maturity. How do you handle situations that you don't like? How do you handle work assignments that you don't agree with? What is it like when you have to sit in a space with people who have views that are different than yours and you have to negotiate for that space? One of the things that I find so interesting about my skills right now is at one point in my life, I worked at the International Center for Conflict Management, right? In this position, what I got to see was what it means when you are a national leader and your words could result in war. And how do you negotiate with somebody who has power over your own life? And also understanding when we talk about the gaps that we have just in leadership across the board today, it is that lack of empathy. Can I put myself where you are and understand that your life is different than mine, and therefore your view as a stakeholder is just as important as my view? And I have found that that skill of being able to listen to somebody else express themselves and ask the right questions is actually of higher value. And this is not something they teach you in school. Even if you take a comms class, right? Like you'll get the basics, but how do you apply those? And then for us as women in a tough space like tech, how do you make sure that what you're communicating, that your assertiveness is sufficiently calibrated to get you what you want or what you need? And this is a life skill. This is something that we learn over time. The one thing I always credit is therapy. And I say to anybody who wants to be in leadership, get you the therapy.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand how you're showing up. You have to understand how you're perceiving things that are happening around you. For a lot of people, we take things personally. And it's not that it's personal. No, it is personal to that person, what they're going through, what they're addressing. Just because they're spilling their guts, their ugliness, whatever it is around you, doesn't mean that you own it. But that is not something they teach you in school either. That is life. And a part of the therapy is also then you get to actually understand who you are. For me, what that meant is I then really embraced my nerd, right? Because it was something that was considered somewhat shameful. The movies, and then people talk about nerds and, the pocket calculator. So what, right? But if you embrace that part of yourself, that means you can then now open up that space and say, so what does that mean for me? And what that meant for me is always learning. That means if there is something new that's happening in the marketplace, there's no shame in me wanting to know about it. And when the time is right, that knowledge is applicable wherever I am. I mean, think about it. Let's talk about robotics. Right? let's
tell me I needed a glass of wine. You got okay, but go on.
This is water. This is water. Let's be clear, okay? I'm just putting it in a glass to look all kinds of gisty, you know? But let's talk about robotics, right? I mean, hardly anybody is talking about it. But here we are with driverless cars. Is that not robotics? Absolutely. And what does that mean in privacy? Do we want to see the people on the street in that machine? Just to break it down like in regular language. Do we want the machine to know that we're there? Because when it knows, what is it going to do with that? But in school, did they teach you about robotics privacy? No. So the bag of skills, the bag of tricks is really more about you bringing your multidimensional self into a space. You don't have to be this cookie cutter person. As you continue to grow that multidimensional self, the way that I've seen that play out in the workplace is having the ability to talk to people at different levels. I can talk to the C-suite. I've done that before. I can talk to the regular, line software engineer. I can talk to the middle manager, with all of the frustrations that they face because they have pressure from all directions. And I can build trust because when people feel heard, they trust you. And they don't care that you don't know what a storage space is, as long as you know that when I talk about, for example, when I talk about Snowflake as a storage location, and when I talk about multi-tenancy as opposed to single tenancy, when I talk about what are the security requirements that have to be built into a system in order to meet what obligations we have. They didn't teach me that in school. No, baby. When I opened up the space and said, this is who I am, I just read everything that I thought was interesting. And somehow it all knit together. So here we are.
Definitely got to read the transcript on this one. Okay. Wow. Yes, ma'am. So Muthoni, first of all, I love that because there's nothing more important than knowing who you are before you enter this space. Because we already know it's hard, but once you are on the inside, the monsters just get bigger. So it's more important that you know exactly who you are walking into the space before someone else can tell you who you are.
Monsters don't mean nothing. They don't.
That's right.
Monsters don't mean anything because the only thing that threatens you is the thing that has the ability to threaten you. And what is it that gives that thing the ability to threaten you? Is it not your insecurity about your ability to deal with that devil?
Yep.
I'm gonna sip my drink.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. All right. So Muthoni, speaking of devils, let's talk about how you center yourself around some of these scallywags running around here. How do you actually center oneself in a space where either you're the only in the room, no one looks like you, or no one can even relate to you just based on your background? Like, how do you center yourself?
I'm so grateful to my dad. My dad raised me in an extremely patriarchal environment with no fucks given. My dad would look at me and say, if you can do it, then you do it to the best of your ability. And then he would just provide me cover. So that allowed me to develop the muscle to know that when people show up as scallywags or monsters, that it's really the emperor with no clothes on. The way I put it, especially for my support team, for the other work that I do, community work that I do in Kenya, the way I put it for them is, we all pee. Don't nobody pee Sprite. The day you pee Sprite, then I'll pay attention.
Yes, ma'am.
So when I'm in the room and I'm the only, whatever it is they want to call the only, because if I was to tabulate the only, every room I'm in, I am some kind of only African immigrant, only woman, only, like there's so many, right?
Yeah.
And in all fairness, if I was to open up that space to some other people in the room, they are also very clearly the only. So for me, what I've done is I've built the resilience to not care that I am the only. If you're trying to remind me I'm the only, boo-boo, that went over my head a long time ago. It really did. And the reason it does is I have developed the muscle to disregard that. And the way I was able to build that muscle also included being in therapy, where I was reminded who I am, and that who I am is uniquely differentiated from other people, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when somebody wants to remind me, when somebody wants to other me, like we say in political science, othering, When somebody wants to other me, that's not me, that's you. And good luck with your effort.
All right. All right. So look.
Let me put it another way real quick for our audience, just to add on to that. You know how we always tell, you know how now there's a movement about mental health and making sure that, you're healthy, right? And there are conversations happening around the question of how are you responsible for the other person's reaction to your message? And not an unkind message. Like if I say something to you, like if I say, Erin, you look absolutely fabulous today, how you react is your responsibility. That is in the verbal zone. In the physical zone, when I show up, how you react to me is not my responsibility. That is your responsibility. Those are your emotions to manage. That is your bias to manage. Those are your questions to answer, not mine. And they will not be my responsibility. Now, if you want to bring them to me, we can have an open and honest conversation, but that is the bare minimum that I expect in that interrogation or in that conversation. But you're not going to dismiss me or my work just because you think that I am easy to dismiss or that I'm here for you to dismiss. No, we are all human and we are going to respect that fact.
Yes, yes. I love that, Muthoni. So what I'm really hearing is this sounds like a personal framework that everyone should actually have coming into the workspace. Like you need a personal framework. And I think you've actually even talked to me about that, just even outside of my career, having a framework for how I relate to people, how people will relate to me, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious, along with that framework, what's in that toolbox? So look, you know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going with this. Oh my God, I need a refill.
Listen, and I say this as I relate to Black women, every Black woman needs a personal tool that she brings into the office. And we're not talking physical. We're not talking physical here. It's a little bit higher than that. Can you share with me some of the tools that are in your toolkit?
So I know where you're going and we'll get there. So just give me a minute to get you where you want to go. One of the tools that I have is I have a very deep empathy. I've lived through some shit. And just to help folks understand how deep that shit is, it includes domestic violence. And the way that some things can open up your heart, because pain is pain and grief is grief. And this is where therapy is important, sitting with that, all of that in therapy and unpacking it and understanding it and allowing myself to develop a really deep well of truth and integrity and compassion for other people. Like just looking at somebody and understanding this person is not in a space where they can accept the truth that they need. And it's okay. I don't have to disrespect them. I don't have to put them down. We can revisit this issue later. Having that self-awareness, that is, I think right now in my career, one of my biggest tools, right? Now, I just said the tool of, the having additional space for integrity. For me, integrity includes speaking truth. And for Black women or women of African descent around the world, speaking truth is very expensive. The cost to us is unimaginable. For some people, it's cost them their careers.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at what's happening with election poll workers.
Yes.
We ain't gonna call names or situations, but just think about that. As a Black woman speaking that truth and then facing the trauma of just speaking truth.
Yes.
That's at the very visible, very granular level. But in the corporate space, in the tech space, that's even harder, right?
Yeah.
And when you are forced to rethink your next career move because of speaking truth, you have to weigh the risk and be willing to say, okay, if I'm going to have to speak this truth, then I'm just going to speak it. The funny thing is this. When you speak truth, depending on who it's coming from, it could be considered a fire that you're setting up in the room. When we talk about setting fires, you gotta know how to do it. There's a technique. That's a tool I got. Yes, Erin.
I'm an arsonist.
No, I'm not. No, you're trying to make it look like I burn shit down. No, I do not burn shit down.
You just illuminate in the room. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, And depending on the room, because if it's a one-on-one room and we have built trust in our relationship like you and I have, Like if I have to, I will say what I need to say. I'll say it with kindness, but I'll say it not because I want to destroy you, but because I want to build you up.
Yeah.
And sometimes rebuilding requires complete destruction of what's existed before.
Absolutely.
And for a lot of people, they don't have the courage to destroy everything that they know or they have in order for them to come into that space of truth. So have I had to say things to people in power? Yes. Have I paid the price? Sometimes I have. But have I seen the growth that was necessary post that truth? That's what I'm after. I'm not after destroying people. See, people think setting a fire is about destroying people. No, it's about after we have spoken this truth and cleaned the wound, we now need to stitch it so that it can heal. It is what happens post healing. That's what we're after.
Yeah, because we're no longer in a place of just surviving. We're actually thriving at this point. Absolutely. I completely understood what you were saying.
Finger snaps for Miss Erin. Yes, please.
We absolutely are. So Muthoni, on this, I'm very sensitive to your time, but I also just lastly want to ask you, just aside from everything we've discussed, for anyone trying to get into the space, and I mean this from the perspective of either working in tech or just trying to make it on your regular corporate job, day job, right? Can you give us any gems that have resonated with you throughout your career?
First and foremost, and always, be kind. Be kind to yourself. Understand that if you're not kind to yourself, you cannot be kind to other people. And the reason kindness matters is in so many ways, kindness saves lives. Let me give you a practical example. When we are engineering for privacy, right? There are sometimes our debates about what are the edge cases. Who are the people who are not immediately visible in that system, in the usage of that system or whatever? People who are invisible, but they're still impacted somehow. And sometimes those impacts are even more difficult. They're harder than the ones that the people who are visible in the system experience. It requires that you're curious about it, but you're curious about it from a respectful perspective. And then that individual or that group of individuals is no longer just an edge case. There's someone that deserves to be taken care of. They're a person who deserves kindness in the system. Be kind. Let me tell you all something. It's not even about the fact that the world is absolutely crazy right now, because it is. Yes. Folks drowning in Kenya, planes are doing what? Ticket prices crazy.
Look, ramping up for some things. Yes. Be kind.
Be kind. And sometimes kindness could also mean removing yourself from teams or projects that are harmful. It doesn't require that you're going through something mentally in order for you to say, okay, I'm going to quit this team or I'm going to drop this project. Be kind to yourself enough and say, like you said, we're no longer in survival mode. So we're no longer taking the very worst before we actually take a turn for the better. Just recognizing this is actually not going to serve my career. This is not going to serve me. This is not going to serve my life 10 years from now. So I'm going to be kind to myself and redirect. Yeah. I'm going to start engaging a different part of my capabilities to redirect. Right? I can say I'm going to go from being a privacy engineer to actually becoming a strategic, whoever it is in the organization that looks at regulations. So regulatory readiness. So step away from privacy engineering. Be kind to yourself. Understand this is where you're at. So I'm going to do what I need to do to get myself to where I want to go next that I will enjoy. That's been my guiding light. And I kid you not, it is hard as hell, especially right now. But there are times when it's been easier, and that's okay. The second tool is find your people, girl, and hug them every day.
Yes. Find your people.
Find your people.
That.
Let me tell you. And be open to the fact that your people could be completely different from you.
Absolutely.
They could have completely different careers than yours. They could have absolutely different expectations in life. But your people are your people. I have a really close girlfriend. We be chuckling all the time on the phone, just about everything. She is one of my people because she has lived this life that is completely different than mine, even though we are both from Kenya. But she has developed a wisdom and an understanding and an empathy, and she has this fantastic strategic mind frame. So when I come to her with something, anything, her wheels start turning to develop what is the strategy. She starts to ask me the right questions. She is right now the leader of my kitchen cabinet.
Okay.
Have those people. They don't even have to be from your family. A lot of times we think we want support from our immediate family. No, sometimes that support comes from across the ocean. And this is the beauty of social media. You can find your tribe in so many other places. And when you do find your tribe, two things: be respectful, be vulnerable. If you're not those things, you do not benefit from your tribe.
We don't talk about that enough.
Girl, that's another session altogether.
Be respectful and be vulnerable within your tribe. Yes.
Because if you're not, you will not grow. And that's going to be a missed opportunity. And can we talk about just respecting opportunity? Let me tell y'all something. Do we got a minute? Because I got to vent real quick. Let's throw this fire in this. Let's talk about opportunity and respecting opportunity. We often malign immigrants in this country. When I say we, I'm talking about just in general, right? We often malign immigrants in this country because they show up in the world differently than we do. But then give that immigrant 10 years, 20 years, and they are in your seat. Why? Because they respect the opportunity. Now you getting opportunity. It doesn't look like the opportunity you want, but then you're going to be like, no, that's not what I want. And you're going to sidestep it, not recognizing that a diamond ain't a diamond until it's taken out of the rock. So if you're looking at this rock is ugly, but if you split it open, it's a diamond. But the only way you ever going to find out is if you go down into the mine and get all kinds of dirty. So that situation that you might think is not the job that you want, or that manager that you think is the crappiest manager in the world, girl, you better get yourself right, because this is your learning opportunity. Respect the opportunity.
Yes. Wait a minute. Can we just play that back? Play that back. A diamond ain't a diamond until it's taken out of the rocks.
Yeah.
All right. I'm done. I got nothing left. I got nothing, Muthoni.
Y'all, it ain't me, it's Erin. Erin be popping these things up and she like, come on, Muthoni, let's talk. And then she feed me stuff and then she acting like it's me. It ain't me, it's Erin. You know, we're often told this is what opportunity looks like, but nobody tells us that when that opportunity first showed up, it was rough as all craziness.
Mm-hmm.
It was chaotic. Do you know that people make the most money during chaotic economic times? Did you know that?
I honestly didn't. I never put that together.
Mm-hmm. It's chaos right now for everybody else in the world, but the money people, they be like, no, this is the opportunity to actually make the money. So if you calm everything around you because you know who you are, you know where you're going, you know there are no monsters in the room because you got all this conquered, because you, okay? When all this stuff is going on, you see the opportunity and you're like, this is where we're going. So right now, I'm just going to hold still. Let all this wind blow past me and all this debris keep blowing, because I brought my Kevlar. I got my armor on, whatever that armor is. You got it on, so you let it blow, because when it stops blowing and everything clears, it's just you and this opportunity, and now is the ride of your life. Let's go.
Wow. Do y'all understand now why I asked Miss Muthoni to come talk to us? Oh my God, Muthoni. What a gift. What a playbook. If we just keep it. I think I'm going to title this Empathy Engineering, and this is the playbook. I just love it. I love it. But first and foremost, Muthoni, thank you so much for joining us. I super, super, super appreciate it. I'm going to have you back. Just FYI, I'm going to have you back. But on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in. I will see you guys later. I'll be back, I promise, with more phenomenal women and the Daily Stand-Up. Bye.